All right, welcome back. It's Mastering You. I'm Matt Sutton. I'm your host for today's episode. Today, we're going to go into part 2 of my top 20 lessons from 20 years of personal training and coaching people, and what a ride it's been. But just before we get into all of that, I hope you've been having a great week. It's been a busy one at LPT, as always. We've been helping people get started on their journey to health and fitness this week. And I just want to let you know on that topic that we are about to, or we just actually opened up spots for our next 6-week intake. So you probably heard me talk about this before. We run what we call the 6-week Kickstart program, designed for busy professionals, busy mums and dads, ultimately to kind of get themselves back into gear, get the habits dialed down. If you're in a bit of funk with your health and your fitness, and you need some motivation, you need a coach, you need someone to tell you exactly what to do, because you haven't got the bandwidth in your mind to do it, or just not the motivation, then you want to jump along, get yourself on the 6-week Kickstart. Now, I'm actually running, now that we're allowed to do in-person events again, I'm actually running a free information evening on the 3rd of November. So if you'd like to attend, it's absolutely free, like I said. All you need to do is drop me an email over at admin@lifestyle-pt.co.uk. Secondly, we have a new ambassador sponsor for the podcast. And this is one that I think would help so many people start that journey to health and fitness. So many people struggle because of time and, again, motivation and energy to eat well, to eat high protein, clean, whole foods. And so we have recently partnered with Precision Prep. Okay, so precisionprep.uk/LPT is where you can get healthy, fresh food, frozen food that you just warm up. It's already cooked, sent to your home. How cool is that? Okay, now these meals are just unlike anything you've ever tried before in terms of like ready meals. This nothing like a ready meal. This is the sort of thing you get in a restaurant, a healthy eating restaurant. The power pots in particular, particularly handy for anyone, particularly at lunch times like myself, not always organized. People think I'd be like uber organized. No, not at all. Like many of you with kids, with work, it doesn't always happen. So having a power pot in the fridge or freezer, you can quickly get out, put in the oven or the microwave, and bam, getting my 30, 40 grams of protein, getting my vegetables in, getting my good fats in. These meals are delicious. I can't even say that. So yeah, my favorite meal is the katsu curry, but there's so many on there. Definitely check it out. So that is Precision Prep UK. .uk/LPT. I'll put the link in the show notes anyway. You'll get a £15 discount when you use that link on any order over £60. Okay, let me know. I'd love to know what you thought about those meals. You can send me that email to admin@lifestyle-pt.co.uk. And yeah, I just love them. I just find it's a convenience. I think everyone needs emergency foods in their life, because let's face it, who is organized enough to eat healthy all the time? So on the topic of that, let's get into today's episode. So I've got to share my back 10. Okay, last week I shared my top 10 lessons. Got 10 more to go. No particular order. Like I mentioned last week, got 4 different categories that I wanted to share. So I've got lessons that I've made notes of around training, lessons I've made notes on around nutrition, and also lessons just on mindset, success, and also business. I'm going to go through one at a time today. So we're going to start and kick off with training or exercise, whatever you want to call it. Let's start with one that I call it, this first lesson I've named as strength is so misunderstood. Okay, so pretty much says what the lesson is. Why is strength misunderstood? Well, often if you ask most people, do they do strength training, or what do they think about strength training? Immediately the thoughts are like your bodybuilding gyms, and it's all about packing on muscle. And this is where the myths really lie. And particularly with ladies, I mean, with definitely the positive thing is the tide is definitely changing. 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't see many ladies in the gym lifting weights. And now it's become much more the norm. However, saying that, many of the females that join LPT, they still feel really intimidated about doing any strength training, which is why they come to LPT, because they know that everyone kind of is in the same boat. But the thing about strength training is application, why it's so useful. So strength is useful just in everyday life. It really does actually help your longevity. If you have a fall in your 90s, you're going to be able to look after yourself if you've got that strength compared to someone that's frail, that hasn't done any strength training. But also, it really has a mindset application as well. I find, if I'm doing regular strength training, and for people that do regular strength training, it's a great way of building resilience mentally as well as physically. It definitely has that crossover application. What I would say is the biggest misunderstanding, a lot of sort of 30, 40, maybe even 50 plus people in the gyms, they tend to sort of shy away from the strength training. They kind of think that it's the youngsters that need to be doing that because they're all into their like aesthetics and they want to get a six pack and all of that business. No, actually it's the opposite. So, as you surpass 30, 40 and your body starts to kind of break down, the strength training becomes even more important. I would say ultra important. So, for all of you youngsters, yeah, you actually probably need to be doing a little bit more cardio. Ultimately, anyone in their sort of teens and 20s can kind of do what they want. As we get older, our bodies do kind of break down somewhat, they deteriorate. And strength is one of those things that's going to help you in multiple ways. It's going to help you keep your body leaner, because ultimately, if you are doing strength training, you're going to be maintaining at least some level of muscle mass. One of the most sort of underrated elements of training is your muscle mass. If you have lots of muscle, quite honestly, you really don't need to worry about your diet so much, because your body is like a fat burning machine. It's burning calories all the time. If you look at the leanest people on the planet, okay, many of them do next to zero cardio, right? That they and why? How can they? And by the way, they're eating like 5,000 calories a day plus. Now, can you imagine yourself doing 5,000 calories a day plus and not gaining weight? How is that possible? Well, they're feeding their muscles, right? So they can get away with eating that amount. In fact, they need to eat that amount. If they don't eat that amount, not everyone's eating 5,000 calories, but many people are, particularly the top bodybuilders. If they don't eat that amount, they will lose their muscle mass. And this is super important to understand. So it's one of the reasons why when we have someone start on a 6-week kickstart program, we do get them in a calorie deficit. We teach them how to get into calorie deficit, but we also show them why it's so important to make sure that we're not going too low on the calories, particularly around the protein, so we're not losing muscle mass. One of the reasons why so many people lose the weight initially, but then gain it all back on, because they may be losing some body fat, but they're losing muscle mass in the process. And as they, tail off some of their training, they're actually going to be lowering their metabolism, and that weight's going to start to come back on. So really make sure, particularly if you're age 30, 40 plus, make sure that strength training, my personal belief is it equates for at least half, if not slightly the majority of your overall training schedule. So what are we talking about? Well, we're talking about doing movements in all of the different movement planes that we have. So we have what we call the quad dominant movement plane. So this is doing things like squats and lunges. There's lots of variations of squats and lunges we can do. Then we've got the movement plane of the hip hinge. So that can be anything like the type of movement you do when you're picking your shopping up, so you're bending over, chest comes over your feet. But, doing it with weights is going to help build the muscles in the back of the legs. So your hamstrings, your glutes, maybe even your lower back. Okay, so that's going to help you, on those days when you're doing the gardening, it's going to help you avoid any back pain because you're being able to bend properly. Okay, then we've got our pushes and our pulls. So this can be your bench press, this can be your press ups, your pull ups, your rows. Doing these exercises regularly will help maintain your body, but it'll help you live a longer life. Okay. Second, so that's number one, or number 11. Number two is just around injury, guys. So I'm going to call it the injury myth. Here's what happens. People have some form of injury. Now, listen, there are obviously always outlier, how can I put it? Outlier experiences or scenarios is probably a better way of putting it, when resting is the best thing you can do, or maybe the only thing you can do. But in the majority of cases, what happens is someone maybe pulls their back in training, hurts their shoulder. We always, like, if you are doing training regularly, you're pretty much guaranteed to overdo it one day, or pull a muscle one day, or even push a disc out one day. Like, listen, I've done it multiple times in the last 10 years. The worst advice, and the advice that we're given all the time, is rest, take some painkillers, and it will go away. No. So this is something my osteopath told me a long time ago. If you're training regularly and you expect your spinal column, if you expect your biomechanics just to work perfectly for you all the time, even when you're doing things like kettlebell cleans and clean and press and Olympic lifting moves and deadlifts and rows and running and sprinting, then you've got another thing coming, right? Your body needs an alignment check. Just like, you have an MOT on your car every year. Okay, would you really expect your car just to pass your MOT every year without getting checked? No, you wouldn't say, if your garage said, it's the car's not running very well, I think you need to rest it. You'd be like, excuse me. The same goes with your body. So finding a biomechanics specialist, I recommend osteopaths generally, because they have a very good knowledge of not just the muscularity of someone, but the skeletal system as well. The musculoskeletal system that works synergistically together. So, if you go to a really good osteopath, they will be able to give you a real good diagnosis of what really is going on in the body, what exercises are going to be needed. And this is the thing, resting often is the worst thing you can do. It's the thing that's often most prescribed. I'm not doing a dig, but often by doctors who do not have any biomechanics experience. So they don't realize what is possible with the body. By just taking painkillers, that will often just do the worst thing, which will numb the pain. And you'll end up doing what I did once before I knew this, is I just took painkillers. And then that same evening, I just went off and trained like I would normally, not realizing that I was actually making things a lot worse. But at the time, the painkillers were numbing the pain so I could get away with it until they wore off the next day. And then for 2 weeks, into 2 years, into another 5 years, it went too far, and I've sort of been on and off with back pain for the last sort of decade. So don't make the same mistake as me. You need to learn how the body works. Really, really important. And by finding a good biomechanics specialist, like a good osteopath, they will tell you. And by the way, here's a little tip. Ask them questions. They love that. They love that because they have such good knowledge. They will, they'll want to tell you as much as possible. You might not take it all in. You might have to take some notes. And I actually recommend doing that, or get them to write the notes for you. Particularly if they recommend certain exercises, because who remembers? Like, if you're given 3 or 4 exercises you've never heard of, no one ever remembers them, right? So my osteopath actually emails me the list of the exercises through, and I print that off when I get home. Simple, takes like 2 minutes, but it means that I'll actually follow the rehab exercises he recommends. That is my big rant around injury. And the problem is, if you do just rest, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to get demotivated. you're probably going to start making worse choices with your food because you're kind of thinking, well, I can't go to the gym, I can't train at the moment. Listen, if you can move your body in any way, you can always do something, you know, pretty much guaranteed you can do something. So yeah, I think I've covered that one in detail. So I've got, what have we got here? We've got 2 lessons around nutrition. Let's go with the first one. So the first one is having boundaries or some form of tracking. That is the lesson. So, you know, listen, there's a rule in nutrition that I first learned when I went through my nutrition course, which was, if it's there, you'll eat it. Right? How true is that? If it's there, you'll eat it. You know, so if you need to have some boundaries, you need to set yourself some form of boundaries. Now, we have multiple different ways that we get our clients to do this at LPT. So for some people, they just literally follow our meal plan. Okay, so that is the boundary. Now, that's very specific. Not everyone can do that because they don't have the time to cook all the meals, or that they've just not got the sort of skill or capabilities. Other ways of tracking, it could be just, you know, as simple as tracking how much protein you're having a day. I'm going to get to protein in a moment, but that could be one form of tracking. Maybe you're one of these people that likes to track all of your calories. Now, that is a really good thing to do, just to find out where you are at in comparison to where you need to be. If you're consuming 2,500 calories a day, where you need to be consuming more like 1,800 calories a day, that's important information. Okay, if you can find or create a meal plan where you can get to 1,800 and you can sustain that quite easily, then you're going to happily see the weight fall off week after week. Okay, where things go wrong is when we just try and do what people call be good. How many times have you said that to yourself? Well, I'm just trying to be good at the moment. But that doesn't mean anything. That means nothing. Yeah, you might try and be good one day. You have one bad day, or maybe there's some news that you've watched, or maybe you've just watched a film that's a bit stressful. You're probably going to eat some crap, right? That's what humans do. We are designed for survival and comfort first. We're designed for surviving, not thriving. So we need to set those boundaries. So that's just such an important thing. Just on this topic of that, my other lesson is, and this goes for creating your meals, is prioritizing protein and veggies. Like, if you just do that one thing, prioritize getting at least 20 to 40 grams of protein at each main meal, depending on your size and your muscle mass, and getting some veggies in there, you'll find it quite difficult to gain any more weight, unless you're obviously wanting to gain muscle. Okay, because we know, like, protein is just such a good macronutrient for satiety. It keeps us fuller for longer. It also has the added benefit of having the thermogenic effect. Okay, that many people know about the thermogenic effect. This is the amount of calories that it takes for your body to actually break down the food. So whereby you can have a bag of crisps or a chocolate bar, or, you know, even some potatoes or chips, you know, your body doesn't have a hard time breaking down those foods, which is why you can have a bag of crisps, and then guess what? Like 5 minutes later, you could probably eat that bag again. Yeah. If you have 2 boiled eggs, in 5 minutes later, you're not craving 2 more boiled eggs. Okay. And that is due to the thermogenic effect of protein. Your body has to work harder. I actually forgot the stats, but I think it's somewhere along the lines of 40 to 50%. Your body has to burn 40 to 50% more calories just to break the food down so that your body can eliminate it. So getting the protein in is just absolutely crucial. And then filling it out with some little carbs and veggies and fats on the side. That will be a game changer for you. Haven't already done that. All right, guys, moving on to mindset and success. My first lesson: be willing to fail. Failure is your friend. We should be taught this at school, really. I think this is one of the many lessons that would be good to be taught at school. Fail more often. Have the courage to fail. Have the audacity to fail. In fact, celebrate your fails, because it's only by celebrating these fails that you can find the courage to try things new and learn and grow. I mean, just imagine for a second a world where you never failed, right? Everything that you tried to do, you just did it. There'll be no fulfillment. And ultimately, happiness comes through fulfillment, happiness, contentment. We get that through failure, and then trying things like 3 times or 4 times or 5 times or 10 times, and then finally succeeding. So it really is a case of chasing the failures. Too often, we allow the failures to take over us, and they become our identity, and we allow them to push us down to not trying anymore. This is where, I mean, this is just such a big growth factor. So the reason why I started the podcast is I was sort of procrastinating on starting it for a long time. And then I sought it out as a possible failure. Let's try it out. Let's see if I can fail at this. And it really depends on what your definition of failure is as well. So I set out what I call my strategic byproducts. So even if not a single person listened to the podcast, I realized that actually there would be some what I call strategic byproducts by just doing the podcast anyway. I get to practice talking. I get to talk to some awesome people and learn stuff. So even if no one listened, I get to learn, and I get to develop myself more. Okay, so this is just such an important thing. And then this actually interlinks with the second lesson that I had on mindset and success, which is a lesson that I've learned from some of the top sort of personal development gurus in the world, people like Anthony Robbins, people like Dr. John Demartini. They talk about this a lot, which is the law of polarity. The law of polarity says when there's a positive, there's a negative. When there's a yin, there's a yang. When there's a good, there's a bad. Okay. So in actual fact, there never is a good or a bad. There just is what there is. And when we understand there is a positive to every negative, the cool thing about that is we can actually choose to focus on the positive. We have a choice. Okay. What happens is most people's brains are more adapted to focusing on the negative. Again, why is that? It's down to the neuroscience. It's because our brains are wired for survival first. When there's a positive and negative, the negative always wins. You could have an amazing day. You could have 12 things that go awesome for you, but one thing's a bit crap. All right. Guess what you'll be thinking about that evening? Yes, you'll be thinking about that crap thing. You won't be thinking about all those positive things, that one crap thing that happened, whether it was an argument with someone, or you stepped on the scales and you gained a few more pounds than you thought, and you're on a weight loss program. Whatever it is, that's what your brain will be adapted to. So this takes practice. It's like everything, but this is where journaling and recording your big wins for the day and what you're grateful for, those are powerful because they bring you back to thinking about the positive. They get your state of mind into understanding the law of polarity. Okay. So, I mean, in essence, positive thinking alone is pretty useless. It doesn't work all the time. In actual fact, it doesn't work that often. But at least if you understand the law of polarity and you understand when there are negative things that happen to you, you have the ability to actually focus on, well, what are the lessons here? Even though this might be a really crap situation, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? So whenever, and likewise, everything might be going awesome for you. There might be loads of positives, but guess what? The law of polarity says there's probably going to be some negatives to those positives. Like if you lose all the weight that you want to lose and you get to a body shape or a fitness level that you're really happy with, well, there can be some negatives to that. What are the negatives? Well, maybe maintaining that's going to be difficult. Maybe not having a proper goal now is going to be difficult. Maybe you're going to have to work hard on creating a new goal. There's always going to be something else that's going to crop up. So it's just really good to understand. Now, like I said, positive thinking alone isn't enough. So just knowing about the law of polarity isn't enough. For instance, you know, if you have gained weight and you're looking to, you know, take that negative and turn it into a positive and think, okay, well, I can change my eating habits to lose weight. I'll start doing that. I'll go into that calorie deficit that Matt talked about. But like I said, positive thinking isn't enough. Most often people need to go deeper. They need to dig deeper into the limiting beliefs that got them to that negativity in the first place. You know, so for some people that might be, you know, they've got a bad relationship with food. Maybe that might stem back to their childhood. So maybe that is where they need to start. Just thinking positive and thinking, well, I'm going to go and lose weight. You know, sure, that might work for a week or two. But if that limiting belief that's at the core or the root of the issue isn't dealt with first, you're probably going to do that yo-yo dieting thing. So I hope that helps on the law of polarity. The next lesson around mindset success, this was one that I really learned when I was understanding the neuroscience of change. And this is just how important, well, the lesson here is environments are everything. So your environments, your daily environments, where you are from day to day, literally shape everything you do. They shape how you think, shape how you feel, you know, everything. So your bedroom, your kitchen, where you work, you know, what your room looks like, where you, how you even decorate your room. You know, if you've got you know, like an ornament from an ex and you had a really bad breakup, honestly, you have no idea how much stress that can be causing you unconsciously. Sounds crazy, but it's true. But, you know, just going back to the sort of the practical things you can do. I mean, in your bedroom, you want to be able to have a bedroom so that when you go to sleep, it can be sort of pitch black dark, you know, so you can get into really deep sleep. You know, you don't want to be having loads of digital devices on. You don't want to have loads of noise. Same goes for like the kitchen. If you've got, you know, I don't know, alcohol or chocolate or biscuit tins sitting everywhere, then guess what? It comes back to the first law of nutrition. If it's there, you'll eat it. Whereas if you rearrange your kitchen so the first thing that you see when you walk in is let's say like a jug of water or a fruit bowl rather than a biscuit bowl, then guess what's going to happen over time? You're going to make better decisions without even trying. There's no self-discipline there. It's just that's what's there. To have more of the stuff that's going to help you with your goals in front of you, okay? Have the stuff, yeah, I mean, let's face it, we're always going to treat ourselves right, but have the stuff that isn't going to help you with your goals so much kind of hidden away a little bit more, okay? Same goes with the workspace. Like, how can you optimize your workspace? If you're like me and you have had some back issues, it might be that you stand up more. You buy a standing desk or a converter so you can do stand-up work. Maybe you have a bottle of water next to you so you can keep yourself hydrated. Maybe you have a bowl of nuts, or even in my car, for instance, I always have what I call some emergency protein snacks. So if I haven't been too prepared, maybe I've got a long journey ahead of me, I don't want to have to stop at the services and get some crappy foods, I'll maybe grab a grenade bar or a pre-done protein shake. And just having those environments optimized just makes life so much easier. Another one for the bedroom, if you're an early morning exerciser, is having your gym kit laid out. You've heard this one before, but it's so powerful. If you have all of your gym kit laid out and that's the first thing that you see in the morning, and everything is ready to go, all you've got to do is have your wash or your shower, clean your teeth, get ready, and then go to the gym. Yeah, you're basically, all of these environment optimizations are built to do one simple thing, which is reduce friction. Okay, every time we struggle to make good decisions, it's because there's too many restrictions, there's too many factors in the way. Okay, so we're down to our last 1, 2, 3 lessons. We're going into business now. Business lesson number 1 here is don't mistake the fun of being a personal trainer with it not being a real business opportunity. I did this for a long time. I think a lot of PTs do this. Being a personal trainer is awesome. Like, it's one of the best things. Like, I just love my job. I wouldn't work the hours that I do if I didn't. However, you know, when you're in your teens and your 20s, you can just treat it as a bit of fun. At some point, you've really got to realize that if this is going to be your career, you've got to do one of 2 things. You've got to work your way up the ladder, like any industry, or if you're going to turn it into a business, you've got to treat it as a business. You've got to check your numbers. You've got to treat it like any other business. You know, you've got to be checking your numbers weekly. You could be looking at how you're going to create growth. I do think the reason, and you might be surprised at this, but the average personal trainer only lasts 12 months in the industry before they quit. So why is that? I think it's for this reason. They think that it's going to be a fun job. They get to play with kettlebells and dumbbells all day. And they forget that actually, if they don't turn this into a real business, there's going to be no longevity to it. And it's no surprise, right? Because if it was that easy, if you could just play around with, you know, helping people and doing exercise and fitness all day, everyone would be doing it. Well, maybe not everyone, because not everyone loves exercise, but you get my point. Okay, lesson number 2 on business is you need to study marketing. Okay, so when I'm talking about this applies not just to budding personal trainers, but also business owners as well. Study marketing is one thing that I did, which was quite smart. And this is more for just having the right mentors. But one of my mentors many years told me an important lesson, which was you can be the best personal trainer in the world, Matt, but if you can't train anyone, if you can't communicate your message, if you can't communicate what you're learning to other people, then you're not actually creating any impact. You're not actually getting any results. So I took that seriously. I did spend a lot of time really learning marketing. And really, for me, marketing is just good communication, you know, and it's something that I still come back to. I don't spend quite so much time on marketing these days. I'm much more in the trenches of fitness, mindset, nutrition. But I really think it's such an important thing, is really understanding who your target market is. You know, the moment when I really sort of decided to double down on helping busy professionals, mums and dads, you know, it made life so much easier as well. You know, so previously I was working with everyone from people in nursing homes, people in school, young kids in schools. I was doing work for sports teams. I was working with Olympic athletes. So, you know, my training programs were just varying so much. It's kind of hard to keep up with. I was doing boot camps, all sorts of things. But, you know, when I really dialed down on helping sort of mums and dads, busy professionals, I could really hone in my expertise on just that market. And that just makes, you know, sharing the message so much easier. And I would recommend that to anyone, whatever industry that you're in. So let's move on to the last lesson, which is learning how to become a great team builder and leader. So this is a lesson that really is only, this is more of a newer lesson in the last few years that's really hit me. So as your business grows, as you move out from just being like a one-man band, sort of a personal trainer on your own, and you want to start building a team. I've been lucky enough to have maybe 20, 30 trainers work for me over the years. You know, I've had to learn how to become a better team leader and learn how to build a team. And it's tough. It's something that, you know, takes time. But, you know, for any budding entrepreneur or business owner or personal trainer, this is an invaluable skill. And it's one that will really reflect on your brand and business as a whole and pay you back 10 times over. I do have a bonus business lesson and this is one more for the PTs who have got aspirations to potentially do this. But I ran quite a few retreats Not more recently because we've not been able to fly. But I've got to say, running retreats, particularly abroad in Portugal, is the single hardest thing I've ever done, the single most challenging thing I've ever done, and yet it's the single most rewarding thing I've ever done. So if it's something that you kind of think you want to do, I'd recommend it, but I want you to know it's work. It's way, way harder than you think. It's not just a case of booking a flight, booking a villa, and just taking a few of your clients out and getting them fit. Okay, if you're going to do it properly, you're going to be the host. You're going to be the trainer. You're probably going to be doing some of the cooking. You're probably going to be doing a lot of the admin. You're probably going to be helping booking flights, booking transport. You're going to have teething problems. But listen, it's one of the best things you'll ever do. I absolutely love running retreats. I'm really looking forward to the time when we can start running them again. So anyone listening to this who wants to join me, maybe in sunny Portugal or someone like that, then stay tuned. It is on my agenda. Let's get them going again. I absolutely love it. Hope you've enjoyed this episode, guys. Hope you enjoyed this like mad ramble on these lessons. Hope you've been taking some notes. And yeah, any aspiring PTs out there, feel free to get in touch. And if you have any questions on becoming a personal trainer, we are starting to build our team further at LPT. So if you're local to Northamptonshire, if you're looking to join the fitness, or if you're looking for a career in fitness, then get in touch. We do have an apprenticeship role being advertised at the moment available, and you can get in contact. You can send your CV over to admin@lifestyle-pt.co.uk. Meanwhile, guys, I will hopefully be back next week. I say hopefully because I'm actually going on my own little retreat tomorrow. So I'm off to Lanzarote with the family, hoping to get some sun and some sanity back from the last year. Thanks for listening, guys. Take care, and I'll see you on the next episode.